The bank teller's words echoed in my head like a cruel joke. "I'm sorry, Miss Torres, but your account balance is $17.32. I gripped the counter, my spine screaming from the sudden tension. That's impossible. I had $34,000 in that account yesterday. Check again. She typed something, frowned, typed again. There was a withdrawal this morning. The full amount minus the minimum balance. It was authorized with your PIN and security questions. I didn't. The realization hit me like a sledgehammer. Only 3 people knew my PIN. Me and my parents. I'd given it to them for emergencies when I'd had my last surgery 2 years ago. I stumbled out of the bank, each step sending lightning bolts up my curved spine. 3 years. 3 years of working doubles at the warehouse, skipping meals, living on ramen and hope. 3 years of sleeping on the floor because it hurt less than a soft mattress. 3 years of saving every penny for the surgery that would finally let me stand straight without feeling like my body was ripping itself apart.
Gone.
My hands shook as I called my mother. She answered on the 3rd ring, casual as ever. "Oh, hi, sweetie. Did you need something? My surgery money?" I wheezed. "You took my surgery money. Don't be dramatic, Elise. We borrowed it for Brandon's streaming setup. He needed a new computer and all those fancy cameras. He'll pay you back when he starts making money." Borrowed? My voice cracked. That was $34,000. My surgery is in 2 weeks. Dad's voice came through. She must have put me on speaker. Crooked backs build character. He laughed. "Besides, you've made it this far. What's a few more years?" A few more years? I couldn't breathe. The doctor said if I don't get this surgery soon, the damage could be permanent. I could end up in a wheelchair. "Stop exaggerating," Mom said. "At least Brandon will make money streaming. What were you going to do after surgery? Still work at that warehouse?" "He's investing in his future." "I was going to go back to college. I was going to finish my engineering degree without being in constant pain." "Well," Dad said, "now you can help your brother succeed instead. Family helps family." The call ended. They hung up on me. I stood in the parking lot, bent at my usual 20 degrees angle, watching normal people walk by with their straight spines and easy gaits. A woman rushed past, complaining on her phone about her sore feet from her new heels. I wanted to scream, but I didn't because they had no idea what was coming. See, what my parents didn't know was that I'd learned a lot working at that warehouse for 3 years. Not just about inventory and shipping, but about systems. About documentation, about paper trails, and about Pete, the 60-year-old security guard, who'd become like a father to me. Pete, whose daughter had died 5 years ago from a drunk driver. Pete, who'd watched me count my surgery savings in the break room and say, "You remind me of her. She never gave up either." Pete, who happened to be married to a forensic accountant. I drove home to my parents' house because of course I couldn't afford my own place while saving for surgery, and found Brandon in the garage surrounded by boxes. Top-of-the-line gaming PC, 3 monitors, a chair that costs more than I made in a month, professional lighting, cameras that could film in 4K. "Sick setup, right?" he said without looking up. He was 25, 2 years older than me, and had never worked a day in his life. "I'm going to be the next big streamer. You'll see." "With my money," I said flatly. He shrugged. "Mom said you weren't using it anyway." "I was having surgery in 2 weeks. So, have it in 2 years. He finally looked at me, saw my twisted posture, and looked away. "It's not like you're dying or anything." I wanted to tell him about the nerve damage, about how I'd lost feeling in my left foot last month, about the doctor's warnings that waiting too long could mean permanent paralysis. But what was the point? He wouldn't care. None of them ever did. Instead, I took out my phone and started recording. "That's a nice setup. Must have cost a fortune." 34 grand, he said proudly. "Mom knew exactly how much you had saved. Said it was perfect timing. And you're going to pay me back." He laughed. "When I'm famous. Don't worry, I'll throw you a couple hundred when I hit it big." I kept recording as he showed off each piece of equipment, bragging about the prices. explaining how Mom had helped him pick everything out that morning, how Dad had driven him to multiple stores to get exactly what he wanted, how they'd spent my entire medical fund in 6 hours. That night, I lay on my bedroom floor, spine on fire, and made my calls. First to Pete's wife, Linda. She listened to my story, asked for my parents' names, and said she'd look into some things. Second, to my doctor's office, to cancel my surgery. The receptionist sounded heartbroken. They'd been preparing for this for 2 years. Third, to my cousin Maria, the one my parents had cut off for being difficult, which meant she'd refused to loan them money 10 years ago. They did what? Maria's voice was sharp. Elise, that's theft. You need to file charges.
Can't, I said.
They were authorized users. I'd added them for emergencies. This wasn't an emergency. I know. I shifted, trying to find a position that didn't hurt, but I have a better idea. Maria knew about revenge. She'd been where I was, the family scapegoat. The one expected to give everything and receive nothing. She'd gotten out, built a life, become successful, and she'd never forgotten how they treated her. What do you need? She asked. A place to stay for a few days, and maybe some help with research.
Done.
I'll pick you up tomorrow. The next morning, I could barely get out of bed. The stress had triggered a flare-up, and my spine felt like it was full of broken glass. But I packed a bag, left a note saying I was staying with a friend, and waited for Maria. My parents didn't even notice I was gone for 3 days. During those 3 days, Linda, the forensic accountant, found some very interesting things, like how my parents had been claiming me as a dependent on their taxes even though I paid them rent. Like how they'd been collecting disability benefits in my name for years, cashing checks meant for my medical care. Like how Brandon's streaming career was actually a front for selling stolen goods online. This is fraud, Linda said, showing me the documents. Multiple counts and this. She pointed to a paper trail. This shows they've been planning to take your surgery money for months. They called it Operation Golden Child in their texts. But the best part, the thing that would destroy them, that came from Maria. Remember Uncle Roberto? She asked. Mom's brother, who died 3 years ago. I nodded. He'd been wealthy, some kind of real estate investor. He left a will. A very specific will. Every niece and nephew gets a trust fund, but only if they're employed full-time and have no criminal record. Guess how much? How much? $50,000 each. But here's the catch. The executor has to verify employment and run background checks. The executor is his lawyer, Mr. Chen. And Mr. Chen is very, very thorough. But I know about this will, I said. Mom told me I didn't qualify because of my back problems. Maria smiled coldly. You work full-time at the warehouse. You qualify. Brandon, who's never worked and is about to have fraud charges, won't qualify. Your parents, who are about to be investigated for tax fraud and theft, won't get their executor fees. Their executors were until Mr. Chen finds out about the fraud. Then it defaults to the next family member, which would be me. The pieces clicked together. They knew about the trust fund. They took my surgery money to set Brandon up before anyone found out he wouldn't qualify.
Exactly.
But they didn't know I'd been in touch with Mr. Chen, or that he's been waiting for a reason to remove them as executors. He never liked them. I sat back, spine screaming, and smiled for the first time in days. So what now?
Now.
Maria said, we document everything and let justice take its course. It took 2 weeks. 2 weeks of agony knowing my surgery should have been happening. 2 weeks of watching Brandon stream to 0 viewers, burning through expensive equipment like it was nothing. 2 weeks of my parents bragging to relatives about their entrepreneur son. Then the first domino fell. It started with a letter from the IRS. I was in the kitchen when Dad opened it. Watched his face go from confused to terrified. They're auditing us, he whispered. 5 years of returns. Mom grabbed the letter. This has to be a mistake. We've always been careful. Not careful enough, I said from the doorway. They spun around. What did you do? Mom hissed. Me? Nothing. But did you know claiming a working adult as a dependent when they pay you rent is fraud, or that cashing someone else's disability checks is a federal crime? Dad stepped toward me. You reported us. Didn't have to. Turns out when you steal $34,000 from someone, people notice. Banks have to report large withdrawals. The IRS watches for patterns. You little. Oh, I'm not done, I said. Brandon's streaming career.
Yeah, about that.
Did you know he's been selling stolen electronics through his gaming accounts? The police are very interested in where he got all that merchandise. As if on cue, Brandon burst through the front door. There are cops at my storage unit. They're seizing everything. What storage unit? Mom asked. The one I've been running my side business from. They said something about stolen goods and fraud. I pulled out my phone showing them a screenshot. Funny thing about streaming. Everything's recorded, including that time you bragged about your supplier getting you cheap electronics. My friend Pete, his son-in-law, is a detective. Small world. The second domino fell the next day. Mr. Chen called my parents informing them they were being removed as executors of Uncle Roberto's estate due to evidence of fraud. Maria would be taking over. You cost us everything, Dad screamed. That executor fee was going to pay off the house and my surgery was going to fix my spine, I said. Guess we're both disappointed. The third domino was the best. See, what they didn't know was that I'd already received my trust fund payment. Maria had expedited it through Mr. Chen as soon as she took over, $50,000 sitting in a new account they couldn't touch. I used $34,000 to reschedule my surgery. The remaining $16,000. That was for what came next. I served them eviction papers the morning of my surgery. Turns out the house they thought they owned was still in my grandmother's name. Grandmother who'd been living in a nursing home, thinking her son was paying for it with rental income from the house. He wasn't. He was pocketing the money and letting Medicare handle her bills. Grandmother was very interested to learn this. Even more interested to learn I found her a better facility and would be paying for it myself. And absolutely fascinated to discover that her grandson Brandon had stolen and sold the jewelry she'd left at the house. I'm giving you 30 days, I told them as they read the papers. Grandmother wants you out. She's selling the house to pay for her care. You can't do this, Mom shrieked. We're your parents. Parents who stole my surgery money and laughed about my crooked back-building character. Remember? We'll contest this. We'll sue. With what money? I asked. The IRS froze your accounts. Brandon's facing charges and every lawyer you've called wants a retainer you can't pay. I left for the hospital while they were still screaming. Maria drove, careful over every bump. You know, she said, they'll blame you forever. Say you destroyed the family. They destroyed themselves, I said. I just stopped enabling them. The surgery was successful. I woke up straighter than I've been in 5 years. The pain wasn't gone. It would take time, but for the first time in forever, I could see a future without agony. Brandon went to jail for 6 months. Turned out his supplier was part of a larger theft ring, and he flipped on them for a reduced sentence. His streaming equipment was seized as evidence. My parents lost the house, the executor fees, and most of their possessions to pay back taxes and fines. Last I heard, they were living in a 1-bedroom apartment, both working minimum wage jobs. Mom at a nursing home, ironic considering what she'd said about my career plans. Dad at a warehouse lifting boxes that made his back hurt. It's not fair, Mom texted me once. We're old. Our backs hurt. You should help us. Crooked backs build character, I replied. At least you're finally working. That's investing in your future. She blocked me after that. 6 months post-surgery, I started college again. Engineering like I'd always wanted. I could sit through lectures without crying. I could carry my textbooks without spasming. I could build a future that didn't revolve around pain. Pete visited me on campus once, greeting Linda and their son-in-law, the detective. Heard Brandon's out, Pete said. Trying to start streaming again, but no one's watching. And your parents are telling everyone you destroyed their lives. Linda added, playing the victims. I shrugged. A motion I couldn't have made before surgery. They can say whatever they want. I have the receipts, the fraud convictions, the evidence. Anyone who believes them without asking for my side isn't worth my time. You did good, kid, Pete said. Your parents thought they were taking your future. Instead, They funded their own downfall. I thought about that as they left, about how $34,000, my entire life savings, my hope for a pain-free future, had seemed like such a massive amount. How losing it felt like the end of the world. But it wasn't. It was the beginning. The push I needed to stop accepting their abuse, to stop being their victim, to finally fight back. They took my surgery money, yes, but in doing so, they revealed themselves. The fraud, the theft, the years of financial abuse, it all came to light because they got greedy, because they thought my broken back was less important than Brandon's gaming dreams. Now I have a straight spine, a college education in progress, and a future they can't touch. They have criminal records, minimum wage jobs, and crooked backs from the work they said was beneath them. I guess Dad was right about one thing. Crooked backs build character.